Alright guys, welcome back to another fantastic Cornerstone STEM lesson online. And today we are going to be doing a STEM experiment about chromatography, which if you see all the stuff laid out before me, you're probably asking, how can I make maps out of this stuff? It's a great joke, so leave a comment if you actually get that. Anyway, what is chromatography? Chromatography is a separation process. It's used to have a certain medium, maybe water, through capillary action, which is actually the experiment that we're showing, or a lot of times it's an electric charge used to separate certain materials so that we can gather the separated materials to view them individually. So that is done a lot with DNA sequencing, and that's something I'll talk about later. But let's first talk about what you need for this experiment. Alright, so for this experiment, you will need a coffee filter, different colors of food coloring, some tape, scissors, toothpicks, and some clear vials of water. So it doesn't need to be a test tube like I've got, that's just what I decided to use. You can use a clear plastic cup, all works the same. And finally, you're going to need a plate to start the experiment. Alright, so your first step is taking your coffee filter, and you're going to take scissors, and you're going to cut out the circular portion of this. And once you have that circular portion, cut thin strips just like I have on this piece of paper. And once you've got those all lined up nice in a row, it's when you take your food coloring, and you're going to put 1 or 2 drops, and with a toothpick, you're going to dab just a little bit onto the paper near the bottom, but not directly at the bottom. So once you do this to all of your strips and all the colors that you want to do, take the time to let it dry. I'd say 5 minutes just to be sure. Your finished product will look something like this. Alright guys, we're back. As you can see, I don't have a test tube. Had a quick change of heart. I decided to make the experiment a little bit bigger. That way, whenever I actually start, you guys can see it more pronounced. Alright, so I took some tape, and you tape the coffee filter to a stick or a straw or whatever you need. And you're just going to lightly take your coffee filter and lower it down into the water, just right on the base. And then you're going to come back up. Make sure not to go too far down. About up until the bottom point of the bottom point of the food coloring blobs is fine. So as you can see, the water and food coloring is starting to travel up the paper in sort of these streaks, and that's due to something called capillary action. Capillary action ignores gravity due to things like surface tension of the paper and water. And that's how water, even though it's not completely damp on this coffee filter, is able to streak up in this sort of pronounced way. I highly suggest that when you guys do a chromatography experiment, and if you do something like this, that you do multiple colors. That way you can see all these streaks running together, and you can see they're starting to mix together to make some different colors as well. I think it's really interesting. Hopefully you guys do too. Alright, to wrap it up, I know I said I would talk about DNA. So one of the great applications of chromatography is through separating longer and shorter strands of DNA in a process called gel electrophoresis. It's a big word, try and spell it in the comments, no cheating. Electrophoresis is when you have a gel solution and you have small boxes that genetic material is put into, and you send an electric shock through the gel, and it reacts with the boxes holding genetic code. And DNA, because it is negatively charged, will obviously go towards the positive end of the spectrum. Here's your question: is why is DNA negatively charged? And the answer may or may not be the bonds that it holds, but do some research and put something cool in the comments. Anyway, now this whole process is a great application of chromatography. And it's something that I urge you guys to kind of research about and see other experiments you can do. Like I said, that rainbow cup is one that we've done here at the center, and it's another great experiment to show the capillary action, the power that water has to move these kind of pigments and dyes. Anyway, thanks for coming and sticking around for this 4 or 5 minute video, and hope to see you sometime soon.